7 Jewish Money Rules to Never Be Broke Again. Have you ever wondered why Jewish people, despite representing only 0.2% of the world's population, have produced 22% of Nobel Prize winners and control a disproportionate amount of global wealth? Names like Warren Buffett's mentor Benjamin Graham, real estate mogul Sam Zell, media baron Michael Bloomberg, and Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg didn't achieve success by accident. They followed money principles that have been passed down through Jewish families for thousands of years. Jewish wealth building isn't about getting lucky, having secret connections, or starting with family money. It's about following 7 fundamental rules that have helped Jewish families survive economic disasters, persecution, exile, and complete financial devastation while still rebuilding prosperity within a single generation. But the problem is that 95% of the world's population never learned them. They're so busy following financial advice that they end up living day-to-day, accumulating debt, and putting off their dreams until someday when they're miserable and broke. The tragic irony? These same rules that created Jewish prosperity could work for anyone, regardless of background, current income, or circumstances. They've been tested through Roman persecution, medieval expulsions, the Great Depression, and Holocaust, yet they consistently produce wealth and financial security for those who apply them. Today, I'm sharing the 7 money rules that have made Jewish families virtually broke-proof for centuries. Rule number 7 alone could transform your entire financial future. It's the secret that ensures wealth passes from generation to generation, instead of disappearing within a few years. If you're ready to learn principles that have created more millionaires per capita than any other system in history, comment wealth below. Hit that subscribe button for more wealth-building content, and let's unlock these ancient secrets. The first rule explains why most Americans stay broke despite working harder than ever. Rule 1. Never touch your principal. The biggest financial mistake that keeps Americans perpetually broke is treating their savings like a checking account, dipping into it for vacations, emergencies, car repairs, or temporary expenses that somehow become permanent lifestyle inflation. They'll spend years building a $10,000 nest egg, then drain it for a kitchen renovation or family emergency, starting over from zero in their 40s or 50s. This constant depletion of savings ensures they never build the critical mass needed for compound growth to work its magic. Jewish tradition teaches the opposite. Your principal is sacred and must never be touched for any reason except life-threatening emergencies. This concept comes from the Talmudic principle of preservation of capital, the understanding that your savings represent not just money, but your future freedom, security, and ability to help others. Jewish families would rather live in smaller apartments or drive older cars than touch their principal, because they understand that spending principal is like killing the goose that lays golden eggs. This wisdom is beautifully illustrated in the biblical story of Joseph storing grain during 7 years of abundance to prepare for 7 years of famine. Joseph didn't just save some grain, he built massive storehouses and refused to touch the reserves even when people begged for food during the abundant years. When famine struck, Egypt not only survived, but became wealthy by selling grain to neighboring nations that had consumed their surpluses. Joseph understood that preservation during good times creates prosperity during difficult times. Create a sacred savings account that you fund but never touch for lifestyle expenses. Set up automatic transfers and treat this money as if it doesn't exist for spending purposes. Only the interest, dividends, or growth from this principal can be used for expenses, never the principal itself. Warren Buffett, who learned this principle from his Jewish mentor Benjamin Graham, teaches rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. The foundation of wealth is protecting and preserving what you've already accumulated, not constantly starting over. But protecting your principal is useless if you don't understand the second rule that determines whether your money grows or stagnates. Rule 2, make your money your employee. The second wealth-killing mistake that keeps Americans broke is treating saved money like a trophy to admire rather than a worker to deploy. They'll proudly accumulate $20,000 or $50,000 in savings accounts earning 0.5% interest, watching inflation slowly destroy their purchasing power while feeling responsible about their money. This parking lot mentality toward wealth ensures their money remains static while everything around them becomes more expensive, creating the illusion of saving while actually becoming poorer each year. Jewish wealth philosophy approaches money completely differently. Every dollar must work as hard as the person who earned it. This stems from the Talmudic teaching that money is like a servant. It should constantly be productive, generating more money even while you sleep. Jewish families understand that money sitting idle is actually a violation of stewardship because unused resources could be helping the family build security and create opportunities to help others. This principle is perfectly demonstrated in the parable of the talents, where a master gave servants different amounts of money before traveling. The servants who invested their money and doubled it were praised and rewarded with even greater responsibilities and wealth. But the servant who buried his talent in the ground was condemned for his fearful inaction, and even his original money was taken away. The lesson is unmistakable. Money is meant to be deployed strategically, not hoarded in fear. Modern applications include investing in diversified index funds, dividend-paying stocks, real estate investment trusts, or business ownership. Anything that puts your money to work, generating returns. The key is ensuring every dollar is actively employed in creating more dollars with returns that outpace inflation and compound over time. Implement the employee money system immediately. Keep only 3 to 6 months of expenses in savings for emergencies, then put every additional dollar to work in investments that generate returns. Set up automatic monthly investments so your money is constantly multiplying itself. Jim Rohn taught, profits are better than wages. Wages make you a living. Profits make you a fortune. When you make your money work for you, you stop trading time for money and start building lasting wealth. The goal is transforming from someone who works for money to someone whose money works for them. However, even perfect investing won't build lasting wealth if you fall into the third trap that has destroyed countless family fortunes. Rule 3. Live below your means, not at your means. The third wealth-destroying habit that guarantees Americans will stay broke is lifestyle inflation, automatically upgrading their standard of living every time their income increases. When they get a raise from $50,000 to $65,000, instead of banking that extra $15,000, they immediately deserve a better apartment, newer car, expensive dinners, and premium subscriptions. This ensures that no matter how much they earn, they always spend everything and never build substantial wealth because their expenses grow faster than their income. Jewish tradition teaches the opposite principle. Live consistently below your means, regardless of income growth, and bank the difference for wealth building. This concept comes from the Hebrew principle of tzniut, modesty and restraint, which extends beyond clothing to all areas of consumption. Jewish families often maintain the same modest lifestyle even as their wealth grows substantially, understanding that appearing wealthy and being wealthy are completely different things. This wisdom is exemplified in the story of Abraham, who despite becoming incredibly wealthy through his flocks, herds, and gold, continued living in a tent rather than building a palace. When he needed to purchase a burial place for Sarah, the Hittites offered to give him the land for free because they recognized his wealth and status. Yet Abraham insisted on paying full price, demonstrating that his wealth was real and substantial, precisely because he had never inflated his lifestyle to match his income. The key insight is that wealthy Jewish families understand the difference between can afford and should buy. Just because you can afford a $60,000 car doesn't mean you should buy it when a $25,000 car serves the same purpose. The $35,000 difference, invested over time, becomes hundreds of thousands in retirement wealth. Apply the stealth wealth strategy. When you receive any income increase, immediately redirect 100% of it to investments before you see it in your checking account. Continue living on your previous income level and let the increases compound wealth rather than lifestyle expenses. Successful people are willing to do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do. They sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term security, while unsuccessful people sacrifice long-term security for short-term comfort. Living below your means isn't about deprivation. It's about choosing future freedom over present consumption. But even perfect spending discipline won't create lasting wealth without understanding the fourth rule that separates the wealthy from the working class. Are you starting to see why these ancient principles have kept Jewish families wealthy for thousands of years? We've just covered 3 foundational rules: never touching your principal, making your money work as your employee, and living below your means. If these first 3 Jewish money rules have opened your eyes to why most Americans stay broke despite working hard, pause for a moment and comment 1 below. But if you're thinking, I'm already making some of these mistakes, how do I fix them? Comment 2, and I'll know to create more detailed recovery content. Now, let's dive into the rule that multiplies your earning potential exponentially. Rule 4. Invest in learning before earning. The fourth mistake that keeps Americans financially trapped is treating education as something that ends with formal schooling, rather than recognizing it as the highest return investment available throughout life. They'll spend thousands on cars, vacations, and entertainment, while refusing to invest in books, courses, seminars, or mentorship that could multiply their earning potential. This backwards priority system ensures they remain stuck at their current income level while more knowledgeable competitors advance past them, creating both financial stagnation and the anxiety of being left behind. Jewish tradition has always placed learning above all other investments, understanding that knowledge creates opportunities while ignorance destroys them. The Talmud teaches, Talmud Torah keneged kulam. The study of Torah outweighs everything else. But this extends beyond religious study to all forms of wisdom and practical knowledge. Jewish families will sacrifice luxury purchases to fund education, viewing books and learning as more valuable than gold, because knowledge compounds indefinitely while material possessions depreciate. This principle is powerfully demonstrated in the story of King Solomon, who, when offered anything by God, chose wisdom and understanding above riches, long life, or power over enemies. Because Solomon prioritized knowledge over wealth, he received not only unprecedented wisdom, but also became the wealthiest ruler in history. His wisdom attracted traders, queens, and scholars from around the world, creating economic prosperity that lasted generations. Solomon understood that wisdom is the foundation upon which all other forms of success are built. Modern applications include investing at least 10% of income in education, industry-specific training, financial literacy courses, business skills development, or learning high-income skills like sales, marketing, or technology. Every skill acquired multiplies earning potential and creates new income opportunities that compound over decades. Implement the Solomon strategy. Commit to reading 1 business or financial book monthly, taking 1 skill-building course quarterly, and attending 1 educational conference annually. Track how learning investments translate into income increases and career advancement over time. Napoleon Hill discovered through studying 500 millionaires, an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. More money has been made by men who have learned to harness and direct their own mental powers than by all the successful speculators combined. When you prioritize learning over luxury, you discover that education is the one investment that guarantees returns. However, even continuous learning won't build lasting wealth if you violate the 5th rule that determines whether your success survives tough times. Rule 5. Never depend on one income source. The 5th wealth-killing mistake that keeps Americans financially vulnerable is building their entire future around employment income from a single job. They climb corporate ladders, negotiate salary increases, and assume that one paycheck, no matter how large, will fund their dreams and provide security. This single-stream dependency creates devastating vulnerability. One layoff, industry disruption, or economic downturn can destroy decades of financial progress in months, forcing them to restart their wealth-building journey when they're older and have fewer opportunities. Jewish wealth philosophy emphasizes diversifying income sources from the beginning, understanding that true security comes from multiple streams of revenue that don't depend on one employer's decisions or one industry's health. This stems from the ancient Jewish experience of sudden expulsions, confiscations, and economic persecution that taught them never to put all their financial eggs in one basket. Jewish families systematically build business ownership, real estate investments, dividend income, royalties, and multiple revenue streams that continue flowing even if one source disappears. This principle is perfectly illustrated in the biblical account of Jacob's strategic wealth building. Instead of depending solely on his wages from Laban, Jacob negotiated for ownership of spotted and speckled livestock, creating a separate income stream from breeding and selling animals. When tensions with Laban eventually forced Jacob to leave, he had built substantial independent wealth that didn't depend on his employer's goodwill. Jacob understood that employee income creates temporary wealth, while ownership income creates lasting prosperity. Modern applications include starting side businesses based on existing skills, investing in dividend-paying stocks, purchasing rental real estate, creating digital products or courses, freelancing, or building any income source that operates independently of your primary job. The goal is reaching a point where employment income becomes optional rather than essential. Start building your second income stream this month, even if it only generates $200 to $500 initially. Focus on income sources that can grow without requiring proportionally more time. Scalable businesses, investments, or intellectual property that generates ongoing royalties. Tony Robbins teaches, the secret to wealth is simple. Find multiple ways to serve people and solve problems. One income source makes you dependent. Multiple income sources make you free. When you have 5 to 7 different income streams, losing one becomes an inconvenience rather than a catastrophe. But even multiple income streams won't protect you from going broke if you ignore the 6th rule about protecting your wealth from the most dangerous threat. Rule 6. Protect your wealth from speculation. The 6th wealth-destroying mistake that turns even disciplined savers into broke Americans is the temptation to risk accumulated wealth on speculative investments, get-rich-quick schemes, or hot tips that promise easy money. They'll spend years carefully building a $50,000 nest egg, then lose it all in 6 months chasing cryptocurrency schemes, day trading, or investing in businesses they don't understand. This boom and bust cycle keeps them perpetually starting over, never building the sustained wealth that creates financial independence. Jewish wisdom emphasizes protecting capital above all else, following the principle, preserve first, grow second. The Talmud teaches that losing money is worse than not making money, because losses require exponentially more gains to recover. If you lose 50% of your wealth, you need 100% returns just to break even. Jewish families understand that wealth preservation is more important than wealth acceleration, because protected money compounds reliably, while speculative money often disappears entirely. This principle is powerfully demonstrated in the story of Pharaoh's dream interpreted by Joseph. When Egypt faced 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of famine, Joseph didn't invest the surplus grain in risky ventures or experimental farming techniques. Instead, he stored it safely in granaries throughout the kingdom, focusing on preservation rather than speculation. When the famine came, Egypt's conservative approach not only ensured survival, but created enormous wealth as other nations paid premium prices for stored grain. The key insight is distinguishing between investing and gambling. Investing involves putting money into proven assets with long track records, diversified index funds, established dividend-paying companies, or stable real estate. Gambling involves risking money on unproven schemes, individual stocks you don't understand, or ventures promising unrealistic returns. Apply the 95-5 rule. Put 95% of your wealth into boring, stable investments with consistent long-term returns, and use only 5% for higher-risk speculation. This ensures you'll never lose your foundation while still participating in growth opportunities if they succeed. Warren Buffett, who learned from Jewish mentor Benjamin Graham, teaches, Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. It's far better to buy a wonderful company at a fair price than a fair company at a wonderful price. The wealthy focus on not losing money, the poor focus on getting rich quick. However, even perfect wealth protection won't create generational prosperity without the seventh rule that separates families who stay wealthy from those who lose everything within a few generations. Rule 7. Think in generations, not years. The seventh and most transformative rule reveals why Jewish families maintain wealth for centuries, while 90% of wealthy American families lose everything within 3 generations. The critical difference isn't intelligence, luck, or investment knowledge. It's time horizon. Most Americans think about money in terms of months or years, paying this month's bills, saving for next year's vacation, or planning for retirement in 30 years. This short-term thinking creates short-term wealth that rarely survives beyond the person who created it. Jewish wealth philosophy operates on a completely different timescale. They think in generations. Every financial decision is evaluated not just on its immediate impact, but on how it will affect their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren they may never meet. They build businesses designed to last centuries, make investments that compound across decades, and most importantly, they systematically teach wealth principles to every generation so the knowledge never dies with them. This generational thinking is exemplified in the covenant God made with Abraham, promising that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. Abraham didn't just accumulate wealth for himself. He established principles, relationships, and systems that would benefit his lineage for thousands of years. He understood that true wealth isn't what you can spend in your lifetime, but what continues growing long after you're gone, blessing generations you'll never see. The practical application involves 3 components: building assets that appreciate over decades rather than years, creating family education systems that teach each generation about money management, and structuring wealth transfers that protect and multiply family resources rather than dissipating them through poor decisions or estate taxes. Start implementing generational thinking today. Involve your children in family financial discussions. Teach them the 7 rules we've covered. Establish education funds for grandchildren not yet born, and structure your investments to benefit multiple generations rather than just funding your own retirement. Brian Tracy teaches, long-term thinking improves short-term decision-making. When you think about the impact of your choices on future generations, every financial decision becomes more meaningful and more powerful. The difference between temporary wealth and generational prosperity isn't talent or opportunity. It's the willingness to plant trees whose shade you'll never enjoy. This is the ultimate secret. When you shift from thinking about your money to thinking about your family's money for the next century, every decision changes, and wealth becomes virtually indestructible. Now you possess the 7 money rules that have made Jewish families virtually broke-proof for thousands of years. These aren't just financial strategies, they're a complete mindset transformation from the consumption-focused, short-term thinking that keeps most Americans financially trapped. From never touching your principle to thinking in generations, these principles have survived economic collapses, wars, and persecution because they're based on timeless truths about money, human nature, and wealth building. The 7 rules work together as an integrated system. Protecting your principle provides the foundation, making money work creates growth, living below your means funds the system. Continuous learning multiplies opportunities, multiple income sources provide security, speculation protection preserves gains, and generational thinking ensures lasting prosperity. If these 7 rules have shown you exactly why some families stay wealthy for generations while others struggle paycheck to paycheck, comment wealth below. And don't forget to subscribe for more life-changing financial principles. Share this with someone who needs to break their family's cycle of financial struggle. Would you like me to create the 30-day Jewish wealth implementation plan or how to teach these rules to your children? Let me know what would help you most. Remember, these principles have survived thousands of years because they work regardless of economic conditions. When you follow rules that have created generational wealth for millennia, you're not just changing your financial future, you're changing your family's destiny. Your generational wealth legacy starts with your next decision.